Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Ruffman. I am your host, John Ruffman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. So I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. There is so much in the news this morning. So many things we have to discuss. So let's begin at the beginning. The military has been summoned to Quantico. There they were addressed this morning by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. Please note I did not say Secretary of War. It is Secretary of Defense. That is the law. And indeed, it was a fascinating speech filled with political innuendo. You know that in just a short time, the President of the United States will appear at Quantico as well. But there can be no applause for the President's lines, whatever they may be. And we are all waiting to see what exactly the President will say. More than that, there is deep concern about the summoning of admirals and generals from all over the world to this meeting in Quantico. Why are they there? Is it to establish a particular policy? I don't know. All that we know as of now is that in Secretary Hegseth's comments, he blasted woke and did the normal political things. Does that justify bringing together the United States leadership in military? And there were, of course, attacks on General Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who Donald Trump still views as an enemy and has suggested ought to be brought back into military service so he can be court-martialed. There are many questions about this gathering, which, by the way, is unprecedented in American history. We have never had the admirals, the generals, all summoned to a single place to be addressed by the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States, who I would remind you is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. So now we wait in the next hour or two to hear what Donald Trump will say and what the meaning of this gathering really will have, what effect it will have, what it means for all of us. So we wait with anticipation. The second major story this morning, of course, is the government shutdown. Only hours away now, and we may see a complete government shutdown. And more than that, the White House has said that if there is a shutdown, they will exercise their right to fire or remove or whatever their whim or wish is in terms of government offices. Now, this is a very interesting point because Democrats and Republicans got together but could not agree. And there are some who suggest, and we will see if it's true, that the president would actually like a government shutdown. Because if there is a shutdown, his authority, his power is increased. If he chooses to dismiss people or put people on furlough or shut down whatever he chooses, because there will be no other authority, he will have that power. The question of a government shutdown, very interesting for all of us. How will it affect us individually? Probably not very much. We know that essential services will continue to be provided, but we also know that this move, if permitted to happen, will expand the power of the President of the United States considerably, and we have to see how he will use that expanded power. And now a word about the Middle East. We know that yesterday the President and the Prime Minister of Israel had a joint press conference and announced a 21-point plan to bring some sort of stability to the situation in Gaza. Let me be clear, it is not a peace plan. It is a plan to end the conflict in Gaza. Now, everyone is holding their breath, waiting to see what Hamas will do. This morning, there have been two conflicting reports. One, that Hamas might accept the plan in some modified form. Second, that they will outright reject it. But the very simple truth is that Donald Trump announced this morning that he will give Hamas a few hours, and if Hamas has not accepted the plan in its entirety, all bets are off. It is the power of the President of the United States. This is going to be another very interesting moment in the Middle East. What we do know is that the alliance between the United States and Israel is firm, that yesterday Netanyahu and Trump were smiling and happy at the conclusion of what they believe to be an historic agreement. It is historic in the sense that all of the major Arab nations have signed on. They're in agreement. Now we have to wait and see what Hamas will or will not do. This is truly a moment of history. If Hamas agrees, frankly, it will no longer be the Hamas that we have traditionally dealt with, because it will implicitly recognize Israel's right to exist. And that, you know, is still the rub. Hamas refuses to accept the right of Israel to exist as a nation, and the reason there is this conflict now is because of what Hamas and many Palestinians feel was the great historic injustice in the very creation of Israel. And so we now wait to hear sometime today, perhaps, what Hamas will say or do. There is more, of course, in the national news, things that are happening across the country and across the world. I would be remiss if I did not mention the tragedy in Ukraine. There seems to be no resolution as the attacks by Russia on Kiev continue at a steady pace. There does not seem to be room for compromise when it comes to Ukraine. I would also point out that today, September 30th, is the anniversary of the massacre at Babi. Babi, a ravine in Kiev, was the site where, on September 29th and 30th, 1941, 33,771 Jews were killed. It was Yevgeny Yevtushenko, the great non-Jewish Russian poet, who wrote the poem Babi. It said, in part, "The wild grasses rustle over Babi. The trees look ominous like judges. Here all things scream silently. And bowing my head, I feel myself turning gray. A massive, soundless scream above the thousand buried here. I am each old man here shot dead. I am every child here shot dead. Nothing in me will ever forget." The words of Yevtushenko's poem about Jews and their murder at Babi ring with the same authenticity today as they did when he wrote them, but also reminds us of the tragedy taking place in Ukraine right now. We can only hope that that situation will also find resolution. But the scars, my friends, the scars are there and will remain. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which, of course, is our goal. I want to say a special thanks to many of you who have indicated through your comments on Facebook, on LinkedIn, direct emails to me, what you think of what we're doing. Please keep it up and do share what we are saying. It's important for us to grow and expand. And of course, to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. Thanks, Gogo, for everything you do. I am John Rothman, and you are listening to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I will be back tomorrow, right here with you, and I can't wait. See you then.